time. Something has got to happen because we can no longer go down the path that we're going down. This country won't last another 6 months. This country won't last another 12 months if something doesn't happen. So it's time to flip the switch. It's time to get involved. It's time to move the line forward. And if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. So I don't care what flip the switch is. I don't care if that means that all of this nonsense is nonsense, or if some of it's true.
All right. Welcome, Warriors, World Patriots, and my fellow Americans. My name is Mike. I'm the host of the Liberty Warrior. Give me liberty or give me death. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. It is Wednesday, July the 13th, 2022. And I'm telling you what, I am excited for what's going on, not only for LWN, but for the Patriot movement. We've got a great show planned for you tonight. We got a great guest, two of them, actually. We've got David Jose in the back waiting. And I also have Rosemary with Affidavit Mamas, and it's going to be a great show tonight. So just a few things that I wanted to let you guys know is, hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I am truly grateful for everything that you guys have been doing the last 24 hours since we made our announcement last night about the Truth Summit in Missouri. You guys have done everything I've asked you to do. You've been sharing out on YouTube. You've been sharing out on Facebook. Truth Social has absolutely exploded right now. And for those of you who are watching over there on Facebook, welcome. It's glad to have you here. And of course, YouTube. We were trying to work some things out behind the scenes, and we were having some technical difficulties. I was hoping that we could stream across David's channel as well, but it just wasn't working out for whatever reason. So anyway, we're excited, and we're going to get the party started. So let me go ahead and bring David and Rosemary out. Welcome, David. Welcome, Rosemary. How are you two this evening?
Hey, how's it going?
Well, we are poor Rosemary. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this, Rosemary. So we'll just put a smile on our face, and we're gonna play a little game that's called whatever David says. I gotta kind of relay it back to Rosemary real quick so she could be in the conversation. She can only hear me and she can't hear David, which is crazy. So it is what it is, but we'll get through it. So, David, it is an absolute pleasure to have you back here at LWN. I know you've been running and gunning. You've been a very busy man. I've tried to keep up with some of what you've been really working on lately, and it is truly amazing. We're seeing a major shift here in America and around the world. God's hand is upon all of us. And, the miracles that we're seeing, things collapsing, people getting picked up. You know what? I might just have to sit back for a minute and just unleash David Jose and let him go to work, because I'm telling you, there's probably so many things that David could probably share that we haven't heard yet. And I just don't even really want to interrupt. So, David, welcome to the show. And Rosemary, of course, it's always a pleasure to have you, Affidavit Mamas, here on the show. And Deborah, I'm sure she's watching tonight. Hello, Deborah. Always love having Deborah as well, and all the Affidavit Mamas. So love you all, and we're just ready to just let's ignite this fire. Let's get the party started, David. Let's encourage. I really love to encourage and bring hope to the masses, because for so long a lot of us were just sitting there in limbo, so to speak, waiting for the next thing to happen. And now it seems like it's happening at such a rapid pace. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yes, it's pretty out of control now in a good way. First of all, I want to thank God for allowing me to be here. I just had a little bit of heat exhaustion from 115-degree temperature with humidity in Arizona. And this is the first show that I'm doing since then. And God made it perfect, because Rosemary was setting up times for me, and we ended up setting it up for later, and my body has recovered to the point that I can do stuff and I can focus. Yeah. So I didn't been through this cycle of not or sleeping, drinking a ton of fluids, trying to get myself back together, not being able to eat or drink, but it is 100% blessing that we have powerful people like Rosemary and Deb. They get out there and they do so much. They actually do more than me. This is the truth. They have so many meetings and so many groups and so many different people that they're teaching. I wish I had the energy of these two women.
Oh, man.
And I thank God for them, because they are relentless. They don't stop. They don't get swayed by the things of the world. They are just dead focused. And I'm thankful to see all the hard work that they're doing. I'm thankful that they have built their brand. The Affidavit Mamas are out there teaching people, doing notices. They have information and intellect that I don't have. And they use their skills that God has given them and the little bit that I gave them, the simplicity, and they blow people's backs out. So it is beautiful, because just recently, Deborah talked to me about several kids that she was able to save from going into CPS care, and a few she got back from CPS care, or I should say CPS trafficking, because they literally stole the kids. But
absolutely,
she got them back, and then they got someone out of the hospital. Since the last time we talked, someone came back from the hospital that was stuck in the hospital. Nobody could get him out. They went and got him out. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to see people use their skills and talents and multiply in places that you can't touch. I couldn't touch the school boards, had no idea about it. Affidavit mamas came, mopped the floor. We know Merrick Garland caught himself trying to get involved. And then we got the federal legislature involved and, put liability on their hands. And we saw the FBI and Garland and those guys get a shellacking in front of everybody.
Nice.
And now we see different states are removing, or counties are removing them, their school boards away from the school board association. So it just goes to show that you could take two regular people, right? If we had to say if we would meet each other based on what we do, I don't think Rosemary or Deborah goes around drag racing fast cars and motorcycles. So we probably would have never met each other, but praise God, the different wrongs that have happened to us in our lives, God used to bring us together and destroy the deep state. That's just one thing. Now there's some other crazy stuff. So this is some good hope. I got to tell you about this, Mike. When you look at people saying the government doesn't listen to us, if you pay attention to what's happened in Wisconsin in recent history,
Amen, brother.
You'll see some of the government officials came out saying, oh, because of maladministration, we realized that the whole 2020 was nullified. And they went and researched more maladministration stuff and went back to 1975 and got a book on maladministration. That word never used to be used. Not in our lifetime, right? For those in my generation, we never heard that word. But we've been putting out this idea of them committing maladministration and how it's a remedy to fix everything they do. Even who's in office right now. If we didn't have a re-2020, we could still remove the dude just for the danger of maladministration by right. Nobody could stop us. And the funny thing is, people used to think that we were stupid for fighting. Why are you talking? Why are you saying this stuff? It's never going to do anything. These people have all the power. They're strong. They're this. They got guns. They got torpedoes. They got CERN, right?
they got F-18s. Isn't that what old Potato's head says? We're not allowed to own F-18s or F-16s. So we still have more power than that.
Hey, I'm like, dude, did you not know in Afghanistan people were running around with Moses sandals like this and a freaking robe on with an AK-47 and they didn't beat them, right? We had to just leave, right? So don't tell me, the people don't have power. But see, the funny thing about the political realm is the political realm deals with the perception of fairness. They get away with everything they get away with because it is perceived that they are generally fair. That's how they got away. People are like, well, they're government. You must do something wrong, right? And it's like, no, they're not following what they were supposed to do. Here, let me show you. And you can see, like, if you were to do a quasi-experimental design, right? If you were to do a study and a test, and you go on the old posts where they used to have certain things happen to people, right? You're like, hey, you lost your kids to CPS. You must have did something wrong. Now you go on one of those posts. It's like, y'all are trafficking for money, right?
Yeah.
You go on cop videos where people used to say, stop resisting. He has the right to yank you out the car and beat you up if he wants to because he got to go home safe, right? Now you go in there and they're like, that was wrong. You overstepped your authority. You were not supposed to pull him over for a ticket and yank him out the car. You're trespassing against his rights. You don't have a right to search. People got to understand this did not used to happen. And when people understand their rights, now you no longer have a perceived fairness where people think that everything you're doing is just right because of the clothes you have on. Now you have to follow the law. And so people thought this would never happen. And this is the funny thing is that we're dealing with situations that never. Okay, let's just look at this one. What the freak is the Supreme Court doing giving so many victories to the people? Roe versus Wade, they've been running on a scam for how long? And it was by misinformation and fraud that they got to run with that. Now, we know as a people to go read the court cases or to go send notice in to them and let them know, hey, Kavanaugh, before you say anything about OSHA, here, we got some smoke for you. Here's what the original law said in 1970, Mr. Kavanaugh. It said that you can't interfere with anybody's statutory or common law rights, which means that we have a right to protect ourselves and deal with our own health, and your statute can infringe on it. And then he comes out and says 80 million Americans can't be forced to do this or do that just because they have a job. That's exactly what we said in our notice. Just because Americans happen to have jobs don't mean that you can make statutes to gain jurisdiction over them to control their private lives and private health. That's in the private, right? And so they've never seen a group of people so intelligent, and the people are duplicating themselves like crazy. I mean,
man,
it's huge right now.
Yes.
I mean, to the point, people used to get mad and they used to say stuff like, well, I'm just not happy because this, and this, and this isn't right. And I just feel like it's wrong, but had no idea why it was wrong. Now they're labeling, they're actually giving descriptive testimony about why these people are breaking the law and how. And we're laughing at the lawyers because the lawyers don't know the law. And because the Supreme Court justices in every state understand the law better than the lawyers, what ends up happening is the Supreme Court justices catch what we're doing and they're like, oh, shucks, some smoke coming. We've been working for 50 years. We ain't never seen nothing like this. What are y'all doing down there, right? The Supreme Court justices, yes,
we're educating.
They know this is going to topple and everybody's going to prison. This is why they're giving victories to the people like crazy now. They're like, oh, Roe versus Wade. No, the people are right. We don't give a freak if you stand outside of our house with smoke bombs. We know what's coming. Do whatever the heck you want to do left, because we know the conservative people, the God-fearing people are more and mightier than you, and they know the truth now. So nothing you can do is going to be as bad as when they restore everything, which is coming. Actually, it already started. The Supreme Court has no reason to say Roe versus Wade, the people win, and these other cases that they've come out with in recent history, the right to carry stuff. They're doing that because they know that we showed them every man or woman has a right to self-defense based on a state constitution that was already guaranteed. That means every state accepted it. When the state's constitution says they have a right to security, that means whatever means necessary. Just like the police can have certain weapons, and this is how you can see it. The police, in order to have a weapon, has to have granted power from the legislature or the Constitution. That's the only two places you could get it. But the legislature got their power from the Constitution. The Constitution got its power from the people. So any granted right that you see any legislative body member, executive branch member, judicial body member having, the people had to have it first to grant it to them. So how do you say you get to walk around with protection, but we don't get to? How do you say you get to have a military that can have all these weapons, but we can't have it? That doesn't make sense. Because when we fought the king, we had whatever we needed.
Yep.
That's what you find as American common law. That time right after the revolution, when we established ourselves as independent and we were functioning, that's the American common law start. So if we had whatever weapons we wanted then, if we had horses without horse tax, that's common law. You know, if you weren't charging me per horsepower back then, you ain't charging me per horsepower now. You know. But the people are learning, and every single issue that we're having is going to be auto-corrected by the people if we continue to push. All we got to do is give notice. For one, we're giving notice at such a rate that they can't handle it. Like, imagine for a Supreme Court justice, just go look at this recent case in Wisconsin and look at the number of amicus curiae briefs that came from attorneys. And what you're going to find is usually attorneys interfering in the cases. And like, for instance, you take this health case, right? You got these attorneys on the health case trying to deal with if the health department can give a mandate. Dumbest case in history is about as bad as the 1905 Massachusetts, Jacobson versus Massachusetts case. What they did is they used the wrong argument, I believe, on purpose in order to make the case lose so they could set in some stupid junk over the next little while. This is how I know they're getting ready to try to attack certain states, certain people and states and entities with some type of 19 type mandates again. because the bar members tried to give themselves one to use to destroy more entities. Now, when we did our PMAs for all the gyms and dance entities and different entities across the nation, right? Different business entities, restaurants in America and on sovereign Indian land, when we did those and challenged the government, we didn't say you don't have the right to make a health order. If you have in your state constitution that the government can deal with public health and welfare, and then you have it in the statute where they can deal with a health order, right? A health order is just an order to government saying this is how you're going to manage a situation. It literally has nothing to do with the people at all. They can tell the government what to do. So over time, they just make the orders more vague so you can't tell who is directing. So you can direct the director of a committee or something to make sure that they test the water and do this and do that, and that they lock up this and that and limit government from going here and there. But the way they get away with it is they just take out the word government. You're going to limit access to this. And then they just go say, hey, everybody, you're limited. Right? So this case in Wisconsin, what they did is if you just read the first paragraph, you're going to see where it says this case has the only thing it has to do with is, does the health department have a right to give a health order? It is not challenging the wisdom of the health order. And it is also not challenging if the health order can be used for any other purpose or to go against the people, So this is how they trick people. People will have attorneys forward this and media, and they'll say, well, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin sided with the health department. Against who? In what circumstance? What's the argument? Don't tell me what came out the case. Tell me what the freak was put in. And that's what they're not telling you. So we're winning in unbelievable ways. They tried to run some okie doke, which will be used against the people if you're not careful and you don't know what to do. And you can see their planning, right? But we are destroying them. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're on the rope so bad. And it's so funny. I talked to some government officials, right? And it's funny because some of the government officials who knew what we were doing about a year and a half ago, they're looking and they're like, oh my gosh, they don't realize how much trouble they're in. They don't see how quick it's flipping because they're in their own little echo chamber. They're in their halls and they're telling each other, look, just side with us. Don't side with the people. You don't have to be with them. It's all going to go away. A year later, it's like, don't look like it went away, did it? Right?
This whole thing, you're spot on, David. This is, I don't really think that people listening tonight and paying attention realize the level of wins that we're achieving. And David, you are a huge part of that. You're on the front lines. Rosemary, Deborah, and the whole Affidavit Mama clan. And there's a lot of them. I don't know all their names, but I know they're mama bears out there. You guys are on the front lines too, winning. And I just want to encourage people tonight. Keep the hope. Keep the faith. Chin up, stand tall, and keep moving forward. Because in the end, when the dust all settles, I do believe that the best is yet to come. And we're going to be so better off, and all glory to God for this, because it's his movement. It is God's movement. I am so grateful for all the stuff that he's given me personally, but everything that he's brought me part of, meeting you, Dave, meeting the Affidavit Mamas and so many great patriots across the country here and around the world that we've been part of. And it's just starting. We're getting ready to hit the afterburners here real quick. We haven't even left the aircraft carrier yet. And we're kicking tail and taking names. So Rosemary, were you able to hear the conversation, Rosemary, that David was saying there?
Yeah, I actually did. It's a little delayed, but I could hear him. So I did. I heard all that he said.
All right. Go ahead and make comment there, Rosemary.
Well, I just want to say that we have been so lucky to have been taught by Dave and Josh and know everything that we know. And if it wasn't for them, we would still be probably back there trying to piece notices and affidavits together, trying to take it from this, that, or the other thing. But Deborah is amazing. She's 100% on top of every single thing that we ever do. Her and I talk, I don't know, at least once a day, if not more. And we just come up with new ways to hit them. So we're going to go, after lawyers. We're going to go after the school boards even more. We try and meet with, especially out here in Arizona, all of our representatives that we can. We pre-serve them, actually letting them know that everything that we're doing, that it will come their way if they don't hold to the Constitution and start doing things right by the people. So we let them know all the notices that we've already done. We give them copies and say, this is where we're at and this is where we're going to come from if you guys think that you're going to, pass the wrong legislation or even do something that's not right. So we're trying to put the right people in the offices now here in Arizona that we feel are going to follow the Constitution and work with us and maybe even overturn statutes and bills that were unconstitutional for the people of Arizona.
Amen. Thank you, Rosemary. I want to say this because for some of you watching tonight, maybe you don't, maybe you've never seen Dave Jose or even Rosemary or the Affidavit Mamas. So let me give you, just in a nutshell for a few seconds here, what these two do and what they're involved with. They are involved very deep into educating people. I'm sure David probably had no inkling of this 5 years ago that this would be his path. He likes fast cars. He enjoys the thrill of that. Rosemary was on a different path as well. But when God calls you, it doesn't matter what your past was. It doesn't matter what you're doing at the time. I mean, I was an industrial electrician traveling the country, working all over the country, making big money. And God called me. And it is an anointing from God. It's undisputed. It can't be disputed. David is anointed. It is undisputed. Rosemary and the Affidavit Mamas are anointed. It's undisputed. You cannot debunk it. You cannot tear it down. These are the facts. We are on a God mission, and these two, including myself, every chance I can, my goal is to try to educate. I want to give people intelligent information, and I want to educate them so that, David, 20 years from now, when you and I are retired in the rocking chair and we see our children and our grandchildren, running this country, that we don't end up in the same place again, right? That's my goal.
Amen. I mean, that's the way we have to do it. I look at all the stories that we were fed as children, and I believe that some of the elite in the nation and outside of the nation thought that they would program us to hate each other. Mm-hmm. I don't think they imagined that the race card wouldn't work anymore. They put up some stupid race thing online and everybody's like, we know what you're doing, dude. Stop, right? To see people of every culture come together and realize that this is wrong and understand that we have a duty to make sure the nation is good for our children, and we don't want our children groomed. What they're doing right now in schools, they're grooming kids. That's literally what they're doing. They're literally preparing kids to be raped by people of the same sex, by elderly people who have been doing this for tons and tons of years. They're grooming them to put themselves in relationships that's going to hurt them or make bad things happen. It is outrageous. But to see the people come together the way that they are, to be able to communicate, to be able to understand that we all have a purpose and that we need to come together and do what's right in order to save the nation. I don't think they thought that this would happen. And it's funny because God will use the strangest characters to do his work because he has to get the glory. Like you said, you were, dealing with, what was it, electrical?
Yeah.
And I dealt with real estate in my past. I did big business, made tons of money. And that's one of the reasons when God slowed my life down, I knew something was coming, right? I'm like, uh-oh, I got something I got to do. When he slowed my life down, I realized that it's like Job, to whom much is given, much is required, right? When God gives you a ton, he expects for you to be faithful when he gives you a ton, right? And that second ton is the work you have to do to bring forth glory and honor to him. And just in recent history, we've seen some of the most amazing people get baptized. One of our friends, Melly Mel, Leanne, who's probably watching right now, Lisa, Brandon did, Stu Peters.
Oh, wow. That's
awesome. So we've been teaching the gospel like crazy, and we see people giving their life to Christ. We see God blessing people with platforms that are unreal. You see Stu Peters talking about this is God's platform, and he understands that he used to be a rapper. Then he was a very successful bounty hunter, very successful.
Yeah. Yes, you're correct.
And it's crazy because God let him go head up with some of the worst criminals in the world. Head up. And then God took him where he wanted to be a rapper and do music and said, no, you can do shows and stuff, but it's not going to be your shows. It's going to be my shows, right? And now God has him going against the deep state. And so you think about the kind of stuff that God can do. You think about how he gives us so much. He lets us breathe his air and live on this earth and be blessed with all these things. And then he calls us to do a work. And it can be scary at first. It can be frightening. It can be hard. Your family might not want you to do it. But when you understand the weight that is on people's shoulders, and you understand that God has prepared you by knowing his goodness after all this time, you realize that why not me? Let's party, right? God has been so good to me. I've lived a life of 10 men. Let's have fun, right? Let's go get it, right? And this is what the deep state don't understand. Like, you're going against super soldiers who God has prepared to deal with your foolishness, to deal with the most evil and wicked people. Y'all know we fought the Jesuits and all those guys. Yeah. They thought they could destroy us. And I laughed because, they were making threats openly. Like, yeah, don't be surprised if you get killed on YouTube. That was like 2014, 2015. They came to my church. They came to the church, left a DVD for the preacher based on the conversation we had. For me and the preacher, left a DVD, left a note for the preacher, turned around and said to me, David, you'll enjoy this. I said, ain't this about a trip? And then I had two people try to fight me at church. I'm like, it was really to just mess up my reputation, though, because there were two older guys. And one was bumping me with his stomach or whatever. And the other one jumped out the car and he acted like he was going to fight. And now, of course, this is at church. So they want to try to cause me to have a reaction. Now, I can't say that I would be okay if I was on the street somewhere and they did that. It'd probably be a different story. I probably would have mopped the floor with both of them at the same time. But I'm like, wisdom. I see what this is, But that same day, vengeance is God's. Both of them fell out. And one went to the hospital with a seizure for elevated blood sugar. The other one went to the hospital for a seizure for I don't know why. Both stayed in the hospital 7 days, got out that next Saturday. And let me see. Yeah, next Saturday. And one came back and apologized, never seen him again, but I heard he was okay. The other one didn't apologize. He ended up dying. So it's crazy that when God tells you he can protect you, like I already know, I'm not supposed to be alive right now. If you just had to look at the flesh, right? I've done so much and been involved with tearing up so many government actors that did wrong, people quitting their jobs. And then God let me still live. It's him, right? Come on now. Any chocolate brother from the ghetto who did as much as I did against trafficking, ain't as good as God. Hey, it's straight like the scripture, Psalm 91, Psalm 121.
Yeah.
My help cometh from the Lord, right? My help, look, I look into the hills from whence cometh my help. I know
Well,
who it
one of
is,
my
right?
favorite is vengeance is the Lord's.
Yep.
It's not mine. It's not yours.
Hmm.
He
Yep.
does protect us. And you know, it's not any of my business. When it comes to that stuff, my job is to stay focused on what's in front of
Amen.
me and to keep moving forward. And God, you know, right before the show, um, I had a really nice prayer, and you know, he answers prayers. I can tell you
Amen.
that. So many miracles that I've seen here on this channel and hear about all the time. He is
Hmm.
good.
Amen.
And man, it's just a pleasure, you know, to hear that about Stu Peters. That's awesome. You know,
Hmm.
I definitely am a fan of Stu Peters, and I watch him occasionally when I have a chance. But man, to have so many great platforms out there that God continues to bless. So this is how I look at it. This is definitely God's plan, and He has a mission, and He has absolutely cloaked everything.
Yep.
His hand is on everything. You know, every platform out there that is doing His work is all moving forward as one. And man, we are getting close to the finish line.
It's happening. It's happening. It's coming fast. You know, did you see? Well, I don't know if you know, but in recent history, so you know, we have people who actually did notices and affidavits versus the federal mandates, and we had tons and tons and tons of people keep their jobs. Federal agents too. We had a TSA worker that works with Josh. He kept his job. He actually, they wanted him to do an exemption. He just took one of our affidavits and sent it to him. They sent it to one group of attorneys. They were like, oh, shucks, this might be over our head. Sent it all the way up to the top. They came back down from the top. He looked at the computer. It said, you have an exemption already. They brought him in, asked him like, man, what's this? You know, you're good already. You're good. You don't have to take one of these, but you're good, right?
Mhm.
And he ended up not having to go through it. And then one of our guys, Nick D out of Connecticut, he just actually had a situation where he turned in his notices and affidavits, right? And the entity he was trying to get hired at, they said, look, we'll hire you. Then they said, wait, as soon as you get your thing in your arm or a test every day. He's like, the Constitution says, and he showed them the state constitution, gave notices and affidavits, right? Kept a record of them, kept his return receipts. And then they said, well, we're not hiring you then. He said, okay. So then he went to the human rights entity in his state, and they do mediations when somebody does wrong, right? So he gave them all the affidavits and notices, which prove the case before you have a case, which I tell people, when you keep that, it becomes the record. So when they don't respond, they lose already. So he just got $16,500 for not being hired. They settled out of court. Yeah, they settled out the court for over 15 grand. So and he didn't work. So it's just like, you know, it's like lost wages. Okay.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
So
awesome. Praise God
a
for
lot
that.
of good stuff happening.
Yeah. Rosemary, why don't you jump in here real quick and give us your comment on this stuff, please.
I think it's really amazing exactly what we've been able to accomplish. And I mean, we've only been at it a little over a year. So with having to learn everything we had to learn and study all the things that we had to study and make the connections that we've made, you know, getting in front of people and trying to, you know, at least have a meeting or a discussion with people so that we could get out the word. What we did on Telegram community, you know, getting all of our channels set up all over the US and people in every single state that, you know, we're working in. It's been a very big roller coaster, but it's been a very good one, you know, because if you had asked me like December, 2020, what will you be doing in 2021? I would never have said any of this. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy how it's all come together, and we try to work every single day as a group and do as much as we possibly can. We get emails constantly asking us for help, and Deborah's constantly writing for people, and she's actually on a trip right now, so she's having a little bit of a vacation, a real one this time.
Nice.
And
Good.
so she needed it because she works extremely hard, but she also knows the minute she gets back that we've got a ton of stuff we've got already lined up to deal with. So we're just happy to be a part of it. We're happy that Dave actually gave us this opportunity to teach us and, show us what we needed to do. He was patient, he was kind, he was understanding. He, even for a couple of old people like Deborah and I, he actually gave us the time and his knowledge, and we really greatly appreciate everything that he did for us. And we just hope that we can possibly just do whatever Dave is that that he would like us to do. That's really what our job is.
That's awesome. Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, all glory to God first and foremost. He is a big part of my life. I know he's a big part of a lot of people listening tonight. And when we start putting God first, and I was a prodigal. I was a prodigal son. I lived in the world for a long time, and once I realized that really all that mattered was just putting him first in my life, and then doing what he expected of me. It's not an easy road, and sometimes it's lonely being at the top. You're all alone. You're fighting, you're scratching, you're clawing, but it's the path that we're on, and he's never forsaken us. He's always been right there with us no matter what. So critical part of what we do, Rosemary and David, is doing what we're doing right now, getting exposure, being seen, being heard, people sharing this message out. I mean, people have been sharing our videos out for the last 3 or 4 days like crazy. Lots of likes, lots of subscriptions. Facebook blew up. True Social blew up. YouTube is blowing up right now. It's crazy how many hundreds and hundreds of people just in the last a few short days have really found LWN, and we're proud of that, and we're excited to have them come along with us. So with that all being said, David, could you maybe let the audience know maybe some of the big battles that are on the horizon that we still, it's not time to quit. I want people to realize it is not time to say, oh, well, Dave's saying that we're winning, so, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before all this. It's not time to quit. It's time to shift a gear and keep rolling forward. So what things are on the horizon for our audience to know that maybe they need to think about getting involved with, or how they can support Affidavit Mamas and reach out and try to join a group or whatever? What are those things that we really need to be aware of in our future?
Well, one thing we definitely all have to focus on is pressing the gas on everything. But 2020, that situation in Wisconsin right now, the stuff that just came out from the Supreme Court about the boxes not being lawful, that means they weren't lawful in 2020. And that means for the same reason they weren't lawful in every other swing state. And that means the guy who's chilling in that white building, he's not supposed to be there. And they cheated to get there, right? The only thing that grants power to government is the people saying it in the Constitution. So if they don't follow what we said in the Constitution and they don't do it faithfully, everything is nullified that they do. So if they want to arrest you for something that's not constitutional, it's nullified. We can all stand up and say, get the freak out of here. You're not going to punish one of the people that way. We're going to turn it over. And if you don't, we're coming after you. What we have to do is set the atmosphere in every state that the government will follow the law, or the people wish to have grand juries back. Completely. Actually, we wish to have it already. But we need to give notice and let them know.
Isn't that something that we're trying hard to bring back as grand juries?
Yeah. Well, we did notices for it already to let them know that we know that we're supposed to have it. And that's the thing, that the only reason we didn't have it, like, right, when people said you'll never have a 2020 check over in Arizona, when Josh and I first started, right? They were like, that'll never happen. You're wasting your time. These were patriots telling us nothing will happen. We're like, just watch. The only reason it haven't happened is because the people didn't have knowledge it should happen and the government didn't. The attorneys hid it. So now we're going to reveal it to them, show us where it's in the contract where they got hired and they have to do this, and then tell the people at the same time, because political entities are all political, they are worried about what the people think. They don't care about being fair per se, if they could get away with being wrong. They care about the perception of fairness. That's the whole government and courts. So as soon as you know the law and they are doing the opposite and you shine a light on it, they can't do it anymore like they used to, because they do everything in hiding. This is why when you see most of the stuff in the law world that we're taught, right? We're taught you don't want to go into their courts. We're taught you have to change this and change that to be able to deal with them. And then after you do this special thing, then maybe they might hear you. We're taught all these ideas. The problem is that most of the law world doesn't see is God said something that was very simple. And because they've learned law, statute, and law things without what God said, they miss the simplicity. So the Bible tells you to reprove evil. Reprove it. Show what the truth is and test what's happening. In other words, shine a light on it. Right? Illuminate it with truth. The Bible tells you that the wicked will not come to the light because their deeds are evil. So these people want to do things in darkness. So I don't give a freak about how many tanks they have and all this stuff. They're cowards because they won't do what they do openly. That means they don't claim they're more powerful than you. They might send some police to mess with you, but not if it's a lot of you that know the truth. If a lot of you know the truth and you shine light on it, they realize, the police only gonna go for this so long until they realize that we've been getting over on them too. See, a lot of these nations that revolted, they don't have weapons. They just revolted and the police gave in. The police sided with them and kneeled next to them and started to stop prosecuting or going after them. We have knowledge and wisdom in America. We have the internet. We have freedom of speech. We have people sharing the message as fast as heck. And we're all learning that the government is doing wrong. And they will never stand on the foolishness they say to one or two people. See, they'll get in front of a court or a tribunal that has one or two people, and they'll say, this Constitution doesn't work in America in our courts. Get the freak out of here. I'll throw you in jail. Yeah, you'll say that to one or two people. I bet you won't say it to 1,000. I bet you won't say it to 10,000, right? People say, David, they're working in Admiralty. This is how they're getting over on us. They might play that junk with one or two, but I guarantee you, when I get done teaching by God, they ain't gonna play that game no more. I bet you they won't claim that. Or they're like, the Pope owns the world. We're all his servants and slaves. I'm like, dude, tell the Pope to come over here into the ghetto, right, where I walk through. Tell him to come over here and say that we're all his slaves and watch what happens, right? See, we're giving people too much credit for what they are because we heard somebody tell us something and we're listening to this foolishness rather than testing the spirits of the people who say it, right? So what we like to do over here is we're like, look, government, if you think that it's okay to run people through trials without what you promised in the Constitution, just say it for us, please. Just say it out loud. And they won't do it. So for all of us, we need to start sending them notice saying, why doesn't the FBI have a charter? And why do y'all keep letting them kick people's doors down?
Yeah.
Why are y'all letting the FBI withhold information about Epstein? Why are you guys not? How did this woman go to jail for 20 years for trafficking kids to nobody? I mean, she got so many kids raped by ghosts. How you gonna prove it? And when do we grant you authority to hide information? See, you don't hide the January 6th people, but you hide pedophiles? How come when the people beat you in a case that you're the trustees of, right? You're the trustees for the people. You're service and you work for us. When we beat your anus in a case, you want to seal the case. How? You swore to protect our rights, right? If we beat you in a case, judge, shouldn't you have beat the other side of the case already and told them to take this frivolous garbage out of here? Oh, no, because y'all getting paid together. You're not going to tell me that it's a federal program or y'all getting money. But we know now, so now y'all want to be quiet about the federal programs and try to slow down. The Supreme Court want to say, oh, well, no agency has authority over the people. We caught that, Kavanaugh. We caught what y'all gave us, that cookie. They destroy. Look, sometimes the Supreme Court justices, when they know that they're about to get in trouble and the people are learning too much, they throw out a cookie to let everybody know that they're not supposed to be doing this. And whoever's the smartest going to catch it. And they're like, yeah, I gave you a little something, right? In that case, that OSHA case, the Supreme Court let it be known that no agency has power over the people like that. Nobody was given that authority. And the attorneys are like, I didn't hear that. So we need to all get together with the wisdom God has given us and give notice. It could be literally 2 sentences in the notice. Dear government servants, do you agree that this case said that no agency had authority over the people? Please, if you believe you have authority over the people, present constitutional arguments or provisions for where you got this power and swear you have it under the penalty of perjury. If not, anything you do from another agency is a trespass, right? Now, if we sent out little notices like that across the country, the government officials are going to start turning to the attorneys and saying, what's this they're talking about? I guarantee you in Wisconsin is happening right now. Voss tried to get over by lying and saying that we had to go to a court to prove maladministration or that people did wrong, even though he knew people did wrong, in order to have something happen. Then the Supreme Court agreed, yeah, there was, y'all did some stuff that didn't follow the law and it's invalidated. Now you can go back to wisconsinlegis.gov or however they write it out, look up Dave Jose and Josh Barnett, and you'll find out 3 months before the ex-Supreme Court Justice Gableman came out with his report telling exactly what we said with less, because he didn't want to give all the beans, right? We're on the public record telling that. That means Voss had information where we gave the exact same information, cases similar to what Gableman used before Gableman did, maxims of law proving what we said, and Voss ignored it. That literally means Voss can go to prison for not following or faithfully carrying out his duties, and we got evidence months and months and months ahead of time. Now, here's another crazy thing. When have you ever seen some regular people who are not attorneys on somebody's public record giving information of how they're breaking the law? God has opened the floodgates to make crooked ways straight. I mean, it is here. It is here. He has done it. God has made the people threshing instruments, threshing tools, and we're beating the high places low. The mountains that you couldn't climb over before, that chunk is getting real small right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're becoming little hills.
Yeah, he has blown the doors open. And you just got to look and say, like I said earlier, people told me a recheck of the 2020 would never happen. Then it happened. Then they said, well, they'll never allow any information to come out. The interim report came out, or the preliminary report. Then they said, well, they won't let any future stuff come out. Then the final report came out. Then they said, oh, well, we still didn't get this and that, and there's more information. We heard Jovan's information didn't get released yet. It won't ever come to the light of day. Jovan, with some of the legislators by himself, dropped a ton of information about all the wrong done in Arizona, and it was mind-blowing. And the government of Arizona did not open their mouth to say, you better not do it, Jovan. They know what's up. They know.
Yeah, they know it's all come.
Yeah, when you get silent people in government, government, when they think they got all the power and they think they know it all, their mouth keeps running. They're like, oh, you better sit down and listen to me. No, you shut up and have a seat. And when it's just like in the Bible tells you, even though your servant understands, and I'm paraphrasing, even though your servants understand what you're saying, he will not answer. See, when you turn government into servants, they just shut the freak up. They stop talking. And people are like, well, they're not saying anything back. I'm like, if they're talking, they think they have some power. What you're gonna see when things change, they're gonna shut the freak up and start moving. Right now, it's crazy because I'm gonna tell y'all some stuff that happened just so y'all can understand how serious this is. So with Chris Noyes, Josue Lugo, and Chet, I've been on a call with a government official from their state. So when did we used to have all these conversations with government officials? The cat's out of the bag. People know Josh Barnett and I got to teach Amanda Chase from Virginia, all the way about to fall off the edge of the country, right? Then people could see us talking with government officials from Wisconsin. Now they're using maladministration. I went to a private meeting behind closed doors with Josh, with Voss and different government officials and some of the highest attorneys in the land, right? And the attorneys were having arguments over things, trying to figure out how to prove that we can have, we can nullify 2020, right? I sat there almost the whole time, and all these attorneys are going back and forth, and I could kind of tell a little bit in the room. Some of the so-called brilliant attorneys didn't want me to talk. I could tell. And I found out why it was later. But because they knew that Josh and I were responsible for 2020 in Arizona, and there was a legislator trying to use somebody else, and that person kind of got ignored, and the Senate president let us teach her. But what's crazy is we were in that meeting, right? And everybody's going back and forth with Voss, and he says, I realized there was FRAUD, right? And but what can we do to fix it? You guys aren't telling me anything. So the attorneys go back and forth, and I'm just like, oh man, these attorneys make it so difficult. Just freaking ask him a Jesus question. I guarantee you he breaks down, right? So I try to ask if I can ask a question, and they're like, oh. I'm like, okay. So I just blurted out. I'm like, man, screw this. I can see the meeting going to hell in a handbasket, right? Because they're not asking the right question. So I turned to Voss. I said, Voss, may I ask you a question, dear sir? He says, yes. I said, where in your state constitution does it give you the authority to certify something that's invalid on its face? And he looks around and he's like, with a title to a car. If somebody committed fraud to get a title to a car, you could register that car and it would be certified if the Secretary of State allows it. I said, sir, that is actually 180 degrees opposite of the law.
Yep.
And then he stopped, he froze, and he was like, and he started shaking.
It's somewhere goes along the lines of grand theft or something, doesn't it?
You'll get your anus taken to jail. They will take that car back and give it back to the rightful owner. It never transferred because it was an invalid act. You cannot certify something invalid, right? He got caught slipping. He was distraught. He was shaking and trembling a little bit. He's moving around like this. And then he turns to these famous attorneys that were on the screen, right? One was like Trump's old attorney or something, some clown show dude. And it was some other guy who's supposed to be a famous attorney. And he said, guys, am I missing? You could tell they trained him well, right? That's what it seemed like to me. It seemed like they trained him well to be able to negate all the attorney arguments. Then I asked him one Jesus question, and his anus was stuck, right? So he's like, do I have this wrong here? I mean, I don't understand. Like, do I have it wrong? See, the truth was forced upon him when he got asked that dumb question, because I'm like, dude, you have a trust indenture called the Constitution. You only have the granted powers in it. So what I'm going to ask you is, where did you get the power to validate invalid things? Did I ever give you that? Mm-hmm. See, I ain't asking nothing else but the question that's going to lock you in the corner and make you have to realize how stupid you sound, right? So you could see he physically started sweating. This dude is usually ice cold calm. He started sweating, right? And He asked them, and they went from the law says to I believe, I think. I believe there's nothing we could do, sir.
I believe, I think.
Yeah. So he knew at the end of that meeting, holy moly, and then he slipped. He walked out and said, okay, to the news, we know that there was fraud, blah, 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 widespread fraud. They said,
Whoa.
widespread. He said it. And I was
Wow.
like, and then, so you know how crazy it is. This is what I tell people. All these states are linked. They all have national councils of governors, national councils of attorney generals and legislators, right? They're all calling each other, trying to tell each other how to beat us. So this dude let the cat out the bag. Guess what happened immediately by the next day? William Barr was on TV telling that he knew that there was
bingo.
Yeah, election stuff. And then guess what happened right after that? Then Arizona Attorney General came out and said he wanted to get Katie Hobbs. That fast, like this. I told people, I said, listen, when you get one of them in one state, it's all connected to the other states. They're trying to hold out because they're hoping we're going. And I'm gonna tell you this:
they're hoping we'll quit.
There's
they
a government
hoping
Wisconsin.
They're trying to exhaust us by dragging this out as long as they can, because we see it every time. Even sometimes in our chat where people get very frustrated and exhausted, and they say, you know what, we're just done. And I will admit, I was getting real close to the point of, all right, maybe I shouldn't be thinking about this anymore. Maybe I should be focusing on 2024. But you're right. We can't. We have to finish, and we have to stay the course.
They're about to fall. They're teetering over. I told people about a year and a half ago. Actually, the first day after 2020 situation, the 4th and the 5th, Josh brought me down to the MTech Center, and I told people on video, I'm like, guys, if we do affidavits and notices, we're going to shake the nation and everybody else is going to follow, and you're going to see this thing crumble, right? This system, the way that they perverted the system was not created in a way for more than 100 people, for more than 2 people to know at once. But 100 people is bad. We turned in 127 affidavits when Karen Fann decided to do the audit. 127. Now it's funny because you got to ask a question like this. The deep state knew what we were doing, right? So they found out who was behind the audit. So you know what they did? They told Karen Fann, we're auditing your phone records, and so we can know who you were talking to and who got you to do the audit. I started cracking up because I knew, oh shucks, they're gonna find that me and Josh are in there, all of the messages, right? And if anybody wants to verify, they could just go look up the discussions between Karen Fann and Dave Jose. You go see and Karen Fann and Kelly Townsend. You go see a picture like this. See if I'm lying. Pull her phone records. You go see me do like this and throw a peace sign to Kelly Townsend, because me and Kelly Townsend had an argument, and she was checking up on me with Karen Fann to see if we really caused the audit. And Karen Fann, she was like, did somebody use affidavits and notices to get the audit? She's like, texting. Yeah, we were at dinner having a conversation with Karen Fann to deal with some of the issues that were coming against the people, like how to stop the DOJ. So it's hilarious. The DOJ, like, yeah, we gonna come interfere. I'm like, Karen. I'm like, Josh, ask Karen if she want to get that smoke. Let's go, right? So we go to dinner that night, and the time that Kelly Townsend is checking up to see if I really know Karen Fann or Josh knows her, we're at dinner with her. So it pissed her off. Kelly went ape crap, right? And she's like, oh, they're there with you right now, and they use affidavits. I wish I would have known that. Check the message and see if I'm lying, right? So we, the people, you got to ask the question, what the freak is a chocolate brother from the ghetto and a gym owner doing with the president of the Senate? Think about that. Why would we be teaching her? How is that possible, guys? If the government won't listen to us, how is it possible? Get her phone records. Just do a public request and see if we're lying. If we can do it, you definitely can do it. I'm sure most of y'all are cooler and smarter than me. I don't even dress up. I didn't even wear a suit to go meet her. Right? What did I wear for me? I think I wore a button up, three buttons or something like that. So you got to say, look, this chocolate brother who used Ebonics is actually dealing with the Senate president. Don't tell me what you can't do. Your audience, tell them that they are
We
great.
can all do it.
Yeah,
We
they
can
can
all
do
do it.
powerful things. Don't believe somebody's idea of what is not possible. If y'all watch the symposium, you'll see Amanda Chase say, Josh Burnett and David Jose taught me how to do notices, and we went after them, right?
Mhm.
You'll hear Candace Taylor talk about the notices we did. You'll hear the 10,000 affidavits that came in Michigan. We can tell you the system that it came from. We can show you it was created over a half a year before somebody decided to use it. Don't
That's
believe that stuff is impossible for you. Like I said, I use Ebonics. I came from public schools. Hey, Deborah got to edit my notices. I'm like, Deborah, can you Ebonic proof this, please? Because I'm sure I had some run-on paragraphs. And
that is funny. I think this is just great. You updating us and letting us know what's going on, what you've accomplished, what everyone can accomplish, not just David Jose, but every American here has the same capabilities that you do. And that's awesome that you're just a regular guy, just like me. And Rosemary's just a regular gal, and we all can unite and do this. Rosemary, before I ask Dave that final question there, anything that you'd like to comment on what he's been saying?
Just know that, if you guys need help, we're always here to help you. You know how to contact us. Send us an email. Watch Dave's videos if you have any questions, because he goes through things and he lays it out just the way it needs to be laid out. You can all do this. It is not hard in some ways. If you're, just given a notice, you can do it. If you need help with an affidavit, we can help you. But just make sure that you realize that we're here and that we want to do everything that we can to help you.
Lost you there for just a minute. Sorry about that. That is absolutely some of the best news I've heard in quite a while coming from David. So can you guys hear me, Rosemary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There is a question that I wanted to ask David before we wrap this up tonight. And thank you guys for all the likes. Thank you for the shares and for the subscriptions tonight. Really appreciate it. I do have some coffees that you guys bought me, and I'll say something about that at the end tonight. So thank you for the coffees as well. Rosemary, and I think we kind of already talked about this once before, David. I've had this conversation with a few other people. So there's two parts to the question. One is you are working on a project with, and I've lost chat and everything, but I believe it's the PM, right? Right, Rosemary? Is it PM or MP?
PMAs.
PMAs. So my question is, could you give us a little bit of information on that? And the second part to that question is why? Why do you feel it's important for Americans to consider things like this?
super easy. So in America, we have what is called a republic. We have 50 individual republics in the states. Well, republic actually comes from two words. One is res, R-E-S, res, which means thing, matter, or affair. The other part is publica, those things which are open to the public. Well, what happens is that the people have been deprived of their rights when it comes to private rights. So the people don't know the difference between the private and the public, and government officials don't know the difference between the private and the public. So in history, one of the best methods in order to block government intrusion into the lives of the people were for the people to come together in mass, right? So what I do is I look at that same model in history and what works. So let me give you an example. Martin Luther King wanted to teach a whole bunch of people what the law was, but he didn't have the ability to duplicate, what is right, but not the ability to duplicate what is right in law, right? Meaning a well-rounded teaching to bring everybody together. So usually what happens is you get one person who teaches the truth, then they kill one person. Malcolm X tried to bring people together and speak about violence. You get one person who brings violence, you get one person or people connected to him dead. And then the people don't learn anything. Well, the greatest way in history to bring forth massive change, look at the NAACP, all black entity in Alabama in 1958. They went against a racist Alabama, and they tried to stop them from functioning in their state. Well, the all-white Supreme Court voted 9-0 that the NAACP had the right to function in that state. They literally won 9-0. And this has happened over and over and over and over and over again across the country. So the government, high level, Supreme Court and attorneys, when you show them the truth, they understand that private associations are the easiest way to function and to bring forth a certain cause and protect everybody's rights. So when one person knows a lot, they share the information with a lot of other people. When they share that information with a lot of other people, you now educate the masses and you bring forth massive change at once. It's very difficult to defeat. As a matter of fact, there's about 70 plus cases to 0 where associations have won versus government trying to trample people's rights and force certain laws on them. So when it comes to these associations, they are the most hidden thing that the law world has to offer. Just to show you how crazy it is, the Bar Association is not a government in any state, but you have a state bar of every state giving information to every state government on what they should do. So the Bar Association, where attorneys run and you can't do what they do, they're actually a private entity. So when you understand the power of what you can do as a private entity, it frees you up in tons of areas. So when we wanted to go against mandates in different states, I created a major entity and I allowed people to be part of my entity for $1 each. Not even worth it if you're trying to make wealth or something like that. I did it because I have the right to teach everybody the law and help them with their issues as a group if they're in my private association. Now, when it comes to mandates, when it comes against being able to see your loved relatives if they're in the hospital, when it comes to having to take things in your arm and these different issues, you can create your own family PMAs and your family and friends can be protected. And what I do with mine is any attorney who does these private associations usually charge $25,000 to $30,000 per entity. There's no way that the average man or woman is going to be able to have victory that way. Then when the people went to the attorneys to try to figure out how to fix 2020, when they wanted to know how to fix the health mandates and keep their entities open and all that stuff, the Bar Association wouldn't help them. They literally barred them from remedy. So Josh Barnett and I, we went to business entities that Josh knew. We converted them to the private for only $2,500 a piece, which gave them a year membership to learn from me. We opened up 140 plus entities and protected them from government to the point that everyone that listened to us stayed wide open, made more than they ever did in history. The police even joined some of our entities in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the police knew, oh, shucks, that's the law. We understand this because when they did raffles, they knew that they had to open up a PMA to do a raffle because the laws for raffles and gambling don't affect PMAs. The laws for drinking in certain states don't affect PMAs, right? So when they try to shut you down, it won't work. Now, families, right?
Wow.
So I realized, well, there's lower level entities as in families and friends that want to be able to come together and want to be able to deal with government. So those people can't deal with using the knowledge that I have unless I have a way to get it to them so they can spread it out and protect their people. So I created the ability for people to have private family PMAs. So the private family PMAs, we made them ultra inexpensive, only $450 a piece with a year membership. So we create your entity lasts forever, and you have a year to learn everything we're doing. You have a year to be able to grow, to build your family, teach all the people in your family how things work. So then this way, your private entities continue to exist. You pass them on to your children. Your children are raised up learning the law. Your children can destroy any government official. And that way we can keep things moving. And it's the easiest thing that government recognizes. So they hate political. Think about it. Political entities over history have changed. National Rifle Association, right? Mm-hmm. You take one man, he says, I got a right to have a weapon. They laugh at you. You take the NRA, you got issues. You're not going to beat them, right? You take the NAACP, you're not going to beat them. They have come together and showed the government you cannot stop them from functioning. And when they bring or brought the law, it shut down everything. And so we're able to do that type of stuff for people, for families. There's so much that the government is doing to attack commerce now. They're trying to stop you from being able to even go to work. Right now, our PMAs are
David.
Yes,
if I join this, would you keep me from getting censored from YouTube?
Well, here's what's funny. So what I'm thinking about doing is having everybody come together and do notices together to the Supreme Court, to YouTube, and let them know that we don't appreciate them working as entities doing commerce. And I'll explain to you why this works. Any entity doing commerce in a state is doing it by permission of the people because the people grant the ability to have commerce. This is why on the road, your truckers have to pay a tax, right? They have to pay higher fees because they use the word road for commerce. They're not using it by right like us. They got to pay more because we're giving them permission to do commerce. Well, what's actually happening with the tech world is the tech world is attacking the people's ability to have real news in partnership with the governments of the states. So there's actually a partnership going on. Now, the law says that you cannot do what you cannot do yourself through the agency of another. That's a maxim of law. We'll put that in a notice. So when these actors try to cause a situation where they're killing your YouTubes, and I really believe, you know, that I was with I got brought to this 2020 fight world from a couple of guys, right? And all of them got kicked off of YouTube. I'm still on YouTube, which is crazy. Now I got a couple of strikes, right? But really, if you look at it, I've done so much stuff that I should just be completely booted like 30 times over. I'm still on. But let me tell you what I did. When they try to give me strikes and they say that you can contest, I give them legal notice. Like on the comment section, I write a legal notice to them and just say, hey, by doing this, you agree that if you terminate my channel, I get to get whatever from you, right? You get to pay me a couple of $100,000, $1 million, whatever. So they know that this is not normal what's being done. But I believe if we all come together and hit them together, because the states are in so much trouble for not listening to everything we told them to do. Like a lot of people did what we said do, but they didn't do everything we said do. So because now that it's proven that there was maladministration, now it proves that when we tried to give them information as the people who have all political power and have the right to govern the servants and teach them, because they ignored, they committed trespasses. And we gave them notice saying that this would be considered a trespass. You're not following your duties and you're doing it with malice, full knowledge and intent. They didn't respond. That means they agreed by tacit acquiescence. So they're already bound. So I believe what's going to happen shortly is we're going to send these notices to these people. We're going to CC the legislature in every state, and then we're going to force the legislature to audit all the mainstream media. And it's going to be mainstream media and social media. And I'm telling you, it's going to be hell to pay because these entities don't realize they're only doing commerce because of us, because we allow them to. The only reason they have not been held accountable for this is because nobody knew. Just like there was no check over of 2020 until we found out and told them. We're like, I called Josh. I'm like, Josh, you want to start some junk? He's like, let's get it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, look at Article 7, Section 7 of Arizona Constitution. It says that only legal votes can count. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, bro, let's get that. Yeah, let's get him, right? So we did the first notice and served Chukri, who's the only border supervisor who sided with us to do what we said do. And then at the same time, we went after Chukri. Oh, we served Karen Fan at her freaking house, and Josh took video of the front door. and the notices go to the front door. And a couple of days later, Josh was talking with and teaching Karen Fan. So the thing is that all these things can happen. We just needed to be made aware. And
Amen.
Now everything that's on your mind, right? Whatever it is you don't freaking like, we've had so much victory. The door is wide open. So when somebody says, well, I don't like the border, I don't like, what they're doing to nursing homes, I don't like this, I don't like that. I'm like, look, just tell us and we'll put in a notice. We got more people actually doing notice as well. We have a woman named Leanne, a woman named Melly Mel, a guy named Diamandre who's making tons of notices and affidavits now. We used to get Deborah and Rosemary to do a ton of them, which I know it takes a lot. And now their education is so high. I tell them, like, look, don't just be doing this or that. Like, you need to get yourself out there and teach and do other stuff and leave some of the stuff to other people, prepare other people. So we got droves of people coming up the reins. That's like,
that's awesome.
Fire. Yeah. So whatever
awesome.
whatever it is that you see, God put the law in our hearts, and that's what the common law is based off of. And the common law we can see based in the Bible. So what you feel as wrong in your heart, unless you're a bad guy, most of the time you're realizing something is not fair because it isn't. So whatever you feel is wrong that you want to make an issue over, we need to start standing up and making some noise about it. And this is what we do. We get to have fun. Give us some action. Give us some fun. Like, we can't think about everything that's happening because we don't see everything.
Yeah.
But if you see something happen, see something, say something, right?
That's awesome. That is so cool. And the fact, like I said at the beginning of the show, in the middle of the show, our goal is to educate people, and that's exactly what you're doing, David and Rosemary, Deborah. As Deborah and Rosemary get themselves even more educated and they start climbing up that ladder, then they bring people in underneath of them and teach them. And it's just, man, once this thing gets to where it needs to really go, there's not going to be a place out there that these people can hide. And I truly do appreciate that. As we roll into final thought tonight, I'll go to Rosemary first. I know she's having a hard time. Can you hear me, Rosemary? I think Rosemary can hear me. I'll let Rosemary go first and then back to you, David, for final thought. I just think that
it's just a little bit of a delay, so sorry about that. But
go ahead.
I just wanted to let you guys know that we're here, and whatever it is that you want, we're here to help you with it. And we are going out and we're doing as much as we possibly can. I was just at a church on Monday teaching a bunch of people more about what we do. So we're doing as much as we can on our end, giving the people the knowledge. And that's all we want to do, is just make sure that all of you know that we're here and that we are willing to help you and get you all the information that you need. And you can contact us and we'll put you in the right place and get you everything that you need.
That's awesome, Rosemary. Thank you so much for that. And I'll just ask the mods. I know they've probably been dropping links all night. I haven't really paid attention to chat. But if the mods can just drop David's links and Rosemary's links. And I'm going to say this before David rolls into his final thought. David is so generous with his time, and God bless him for what he's doing for our country, for his kids, for my kids, for your kids. And Rosemary, Deborah, and the Affidavit Mamas give their time. If you guys ever have questions or if you want to learn, like David says, we can all do this. Anyone can do this. Please listen to your heart and reach out to the Affidavit Mamas and ask for help. And they will gladly guide you along. I know you guys do Zoom calls as well. So if you have an affidavit that you need to fill out in your state and you're having a hard time doing it, these people will hop on a Zoom call with you and walk you through it step by step so that we can continue to put our foot on this accelerator. We cannot stop. We cannot let up. Just because we're winning, Trump says we're going to win so much, we're going to get sick of it. I don't get sick of it, and we need to just keep pushing forward. So, David, if you wouldn't mind with your final thought, brother, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight.
Hey, I appreciate you, and I thank God just to be in the presence of mighty people. I want to say, just in closing, when it comes to the power behind what God has done, just so you guys can see, I just want to tell you a quick story. I want to tell you the story of Summer Cook. There was a woman named Carla Loeffler who got into one of our groups. She started coming into the training. She came to the webinars to learn. And she was dealing in Wisconsin. She had a partner named Aaron. And they started doing notices and affidavits. And a lot of the people who were around them were saying, this doesn't work. This won't do anything. It can't happen. Summer, who started with us about 4 months ago, went to one of the meetings with probably 4.5 months. She went to one of the meetings with Robin Vos, the head Republican in Wisconsin. And she created a notice and she read it out to him right there on the spot. And the first day, 2 people in the audience were like, you got to respect him and blah, 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 blah. In one of the Republican assembly meetings. And everybody else was cheering and agreeing with her, right? And then the next time she came, everybody agreed with her and Voss was stumbling. Right? He couldn't deal with the wisdom by which she spoke. The third time she went to a meeting, Robin Vos got booed by the entire Republican committee across the state, like 1,000 people booing him at this, booed off stage. So in a very short amount of time, between 2.5 to 3 months, Summer Cook, because of somebody like Carla, came into our teaching. She started teaching and blew the guy Robin Vos out of the park. Now, not only did she blow him out of the park with simple understanding and wisdom, but she actually took it to a totally different level because an ex-Supreme Court justice named Daniel Kelly actually spoke with her and said, ma'am, I just want to say I appreciate your knowledge. I know you've been doing this probably for years. She said, sir, I've only been learning 3 months. So, guys, for all of you, the government officials, if you go watch my YouTube, you go watch Rosemary and them, you ain't going to see people calling us sovereign citizens in government. They're not going to make jokes about us. You're going to see them getting tamed and they're going to shut the freak up by God, right? So I just want you to know, God has made you go through the things you went through. He has allowed you to go through the suffering you have. He's taught you what he's taught you for a time such as this. You are watching this video because God is powerful. He's mighty. He's heard your tears, and he's giving the people of America a chance to see the oppressors fall. So just like Psalm 37, when the wicked are growing like a green bay tree and some people get scared, the Bible says that God is laughing because he knows their day is coming. So just know this is a good time and we're going to be able to see it and be glad. But take part in the action and have joy because God has given you the opportunity. It is a blessed and wonderful time. I'm so thankful for you, Mike, for letting me be here. I'm humbled to be able to come on. I love the show. And I'm thankful to Rosemary and the Affidavit Mamas for setting me up and keeping me organized and making sure that I don't miss out on stuff, even when I'm falling out half dead. You guys are amazing. And I love you all.
Thank you, David. Great final thought and so powerful. Please share this out. Hit that like button, share this out, subscribe to us, follow us on Truth Social. We're on Rumble. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere. So my final thought is this. It's going to take every one of us, not just to get our country back, but to secure it and keep it where it needs to be. And with people like this who are willing to give us their time to teach and to educate, that is a way to make yourself more valuable to yourself, more valuable to your family and your country, is to educate yourself with this knowledge that they're willing to share. And then be a teacher yourself. Go out and teach the world, teach your kids, teach your grandkids. We can be God's army that is so powerful that they will quiver and shake in their boots when they hear us coming. Because I'm telling you, man, what Dave has to share and what Affidavit Mamas are sharing, it's some powerful, powerful stuff. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. That's it. But David, if you wouldn't mind just waiting in the waiting room for me after the final video is playing, because I'd really like to talk to you about joining some of that stuff. And I have some people in mind that I think would also jump on board too. So if you just give me about 6 or 7 more minutes of your time there, I'll be right in the waiting room as soon as this video is done. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everybody over on True Social, Facebook, we'll be up on Frank's speech here in a few days. Love y'all. God bless. Have a great day, and I'll see you back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Devotions with LW.
Hoping for a sincere performance, but open to finding the moment, to finding out where I'm headed now. Looking for a sign of disaster, so I can make it there faster. I'm weighing the consequences out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. Can you tell me the secret of how you can take it or leave it? How you can blend in with the crowd? I'm so scared, so damn afraid to look. I'm so sick of talking. I'm wearing the words out, words out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. When it feels like everyone's out to get me, I see the river on the bank.